The message had been clear: leave this sector. Your technology is primitive. Your understanding, incomplete. Admiral Ilara Vex stood on the command deck of the UES Harbinger, humanity's most advanced warship, staring at the alien transmission that had arrived 3 days prior. Her silver streak hair was pulled back in a severe knot, eyes narrowed at the holographic display. Around her, the bridge crew maintained a tense silence. "Play it again," she ordered. The alien's face, if one could call it that, appeared again. A shifting mass of iridescent geometries that somehow formed expressions. Its voice was mechanical, the translation overlay providing meaning to the strange harmonics. "Humans of Earth, your expansion ends here. This sector is under protection of the Luminoth Concordance. Your arrival is premature. Your weapons are dangerous only to yourselves. Leave or witness the folly of your arrogance." Captain Thorn Meridian approached her side, his dark features set in determination. "They can't just declare an entire sector off-limits to us. We've got colonies established on Proxima B and Tau Ceti already." "Exactly," Vex replied, "which is why Earth Central sent us with the fleet. The Luminoth, or whoever they are, need to understand humanity doesn't respond well to threats." Outside the reinforced viewports, 27 warships of the United Earth Alliance hung in formation, the most powerful armada humanity had ever assembled. Mankind had spread across 12 star systems in the past century, overcoming every obstacle the cosmos had thrown their way. "Dr. Krell," Vex called. The xenobiologist stepped forward, his augmented eyes whirring softly as they refocused. "Admiral, I've analyzed everything we have on them. The Luminoth appear to possess technology centuries beyond ours, but their ships are few. I believe they're bluffing." Lieutenant Azeri, the tactical officer, pulled up scans on her console. "Their vessel is approximately 1/5 the size of the Harbinger. Energy readings are unusual, but not overwhelming. We outnumber them significantly. And yet they're not afraid," Vex mused. "Interesting." The diplomatic officer, Commander Lorian, cleared his throat. "Admiral, I must again suggest we attempt further communication. The Luminoth claim this region has significance we don't understand, perhaps." "Perhaps nothing," Vex cut him off. "Earth has been sending signals into space for centuries asking for contact. Now that we've built something worth respecting, suddenly aliens appear telling us to turn back. Humanity doesn't bow to intimidation." She straightened her uniform and made her decision. "Tactical, bring weapons to full readiness. Communications, send this message. This is Admiral Ilara Vex of the United Earth Alliance. Humanity has worked too hard and sacrificed too much to be confined to our cradle. We will not abandon our colonies or halt our expansion. We offer peaceful coexistence, but we will defend our right to exist among the stars." The bridge crew exchanged glances, some worried, others resolute. "Message sent," the communications officer confirmed. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the sensors erupted with alerts. "Multiple spatial distortions forming," Azuri shouted. "The Luminoth vessel it's changing somehow." On main view screen, the alien ship, previously a small, unassuming silver void, began to unfold like a blooming flower, revealing intricate geometries that seemed to bend in directions human minds struggled to comprehend. "Energy readings off the scale," reported the science officer, his voice cracking. "They're doing something to space and time itself." Vex gripped the command rail. "Defensive posture. All ships, prepare tow." The words died in her throat as a pulse of blue-white light erupted from the transformed Luminoth vessel. It wasn't an explosion or an energy beam. It was something else entirely, rippling through space like a stone dropped in water. As the wave passed harmlessly through the human fleet, every system went dark. The warnings had been delivered. Humanity had ignored them. And now they would learn why. "Restart the dam systems," Admiral Vex demanded, her voice echoing in the darkness of the bridge, now lit only by emergency backup lighting. Around her, officers frantically worked at dead consoles. The Harbinger, pride of Earth's fleet, floated powerless, along with every other vessel in the Armada. Only life support and minimal gravity remained functional. "It's not responding, Admiral," Captain Meridian replied, his face ghostly in the dim red light. "Whatever that pulse was, it's fried our quantum processors. Even the isolated backup systems are non-responsive." "How is that possible?" Vex whispered, more to herself than anyone. "Every critical system has triple redundancy." Dr. Krell stepped forward, his augmented eyes the only technology still functioning on the bridge. It wasn't an EMP or any weapon we understand. The pulse seemed to rewrite the quantum states of our systems. It's as if they changed the underlying rules our technology operates on. Lieutenant Commander Kadira approached from the engineering station, her voice grim. Admiral, we got reports from across the fleet. All 27 ships affected identically were dead in space. Outside the viewport, the Lumineth vessel had returned to its original form. It now pulsed with a soft blue light, seemingly waiting. Communications? Vex asked. Nothing digital works, Katter replied. We've reverted to analog light signals between ships. Old Morse code. The Tycho reports their shuttle systems still function. Everything complex is dead, but mechanical systems and basic electrical circuits still work. Vex's jaw tightened. They disabled our fleet without firing a shot. The main doors to the bridge slid open, manually pushed by 2 security officers. Between them stood Ambassador Tavik, the civilian diplomatic representative from Earth Central. His weathered face was grave. Admiral, the Lumineth are hailing us. They're projecting some kind of hologram in the mess hall. It's bypassing our systems entirely. How convenient they left us air and lights. Vex said bitterly, already moving toward the door. Meridian, Krell, with me. The mess hall was crowded with confused crew members, staring at the apparition hovering above the central tables. The same shifting geometric form they'd seen in the transmission, but larger, more detailed. As Vex entered, it seemed to focus on her. You were warned. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating not just in their ears, but seemingly in their bones. Your weapons are now inert. Your movement capabilities limited. This is mercy. Vex stepped forward. You've committed an act of war against humanity. No, we have prevented one. The shape shifted, forming what almost resembled a human face before dissolving again. 12 years ago, you discovered the principles of nova fission. 5 years ago, you weaponized it. Each of your vessels carries enough destructive potential to sterilize an inhabited world. Ambassador Tavik moved beside Vex. We have strict protocols governing weapons use. We've never. Your history speaks differently, the Lumineth interrupted. 73 times your kind has discovered atomic energy. 73 times you have used it first for destruction. Your pattern is known. The apparition expanded, showing images of Earth's wars, from ancient battles to modern conflicts. But we've grown beyond that, Vex argued. United Earth was formed specifically to continue the pattern among the stars, the Lumineth finished. The technology you utilize is dangerous not because of its power, but because of what it reawakens. Dr. Krell stepped forward, fascinated despite the situation. What do you mean, reawakens? The hologram shifted again, displaying mathematical equations that seemed to writhe and change as they watched. Your nova fission reactors create ripples in dimensional barriers. The entities that sleep between realities stir when such ripples occur. They have consumed countless civilizations before yours. Silence fell across the mess hall. Even Vex found herself momentarily speechless. Your ships will receive minimal power within one planetary rotation, the Lumineth continued. Enough to return to your colony worlds. You may keep what you have settled, but expand no further until you have evolved beyond your current technological approach. Ambassador Tavik found his voice. And if we refuse, then what sleeps will wake fully, and what remains of humanity will not be enough to sustain even pride. The Harbinger limped back to Proxima Centauri at sublight speeds, its nova fission engines replaced with primitive fusion drives that the Lumineth had somehow installed during the night cycle. Admiral Vex stood at the viewport, watching as Proxima b grew from a distant speck to a blue-green jewel against the red dwarf star. 2 months of travel, Captain Meridian said, joining her. What once took us days now takes months. They've set us back a century. Vex's face remained impassive, but her fingers gripped the rail until her knuckles widened. No, they'd merely changed the game. I don't like losing, Captain. Behind them, the bridge operated on refitted analog systems, physical switches, hardwired circuits, and actual paper logs. The ship felt more like a vessel from the early space age than humanity's former flagship. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander Kadira from her station. Incoming transmission from Proxima Command. Director Orbital wishes to speak with you immediately upon docking. Vex nodded. I expected nothing less. Our triumphant armada returns with its tail between its legs. The other ships report similar retrofitting, Dr. Krull added, studying a printed readout. The Lumineth didn't just disable our technology. They replaced it with something more. Primitive but still functional. They wanted us to make it home. Small mercies, Vex muttered. 4 hours later, the Harbinger docked at Proxima Station. Director Orbital was waiting in the conference room, his synthetic eyes glowing faintly with suppressed anger. 27 warships, he began without preamble. 98 trillion credits of technology. The pride of human achievement. And one alien vessel rendered it all useless in seconds. Vex stood at attention. Yes, sir. The Luminoth possess technology beyond our comprehension. But more importantly, they claim our Nova fission technology is causing some kind of dimensional disturbance. Orbital scoffed. Convenient excuse to halt our expansion. The Galactic Council back on Earth believes this was a show of force, establishing dominance. They're already discussing countermeasures. With respect, Director, Ambassador Tavik interjected. I believe the Luminoth warning was genuine. The data Dr. Krell collected suggests. I'm not interested in speculation. Orbital cut him off. Earth Central has made its decision. We will not be intimidated by a single alien vessel, no matter how advanced. Vex exchanged a glance with Meridian. What are your orders, sir? Project Phoenix, Orbital replied. While you were en route, our scientists have been working around the clock. We've developed shielded Nova fission technology that should be immune to the Luminoth pulse weapon. We're refitting the colony defense fleet as we speak. Dr. Krell shook his head. Director, you misunderstand. The pulse wasn't a weapon. It was a recalibration of quantum states, and the Luminoth weren't concerned about our expansion. They were warning us about something our technology awakens. More alien propaganda, Orbital dismissed. Admiral Vex, you'll oversee the refit of your vessel with Phoenix technology. We launch in 6 weeks. As they left the conference room, Vex pulled Krell aside. Doctor, how confident are you in the Luminoth warning? Krell's augmented eyes whirred softly. The mathematical models they showed us. Admiral, they're unlike anything I've seen, but they're internally consistent. I've been running simulations. If they're right, Nova fission creates microscopic tears in what we might call dimensional barriers. And these entities they mentioned? I don't know, Krell admitted. But the Luminoth had no reason to lie. They could have destroyed us rather than disabling us. Vex nodded slowly. Continue your research quietly and get me everything you can on Project Phoenix. 6 weeks later, the retrofitted Harbinger prepared for its second departure. Its sleek hull now moored by bulky shielding arrays, the ship looked less elegant but far more ominous. In her quarters, Admiral Vex studied the classified Phoenix schematics one last time. The new engines weren't just shielded Nova fission, they were amplified. Earth Central had decided that if one alien race could disable their technology, the solution was to make it too powerful to be tampered with. She closed the file and stared out her small viewport at the stars. Pride, she whispered. Our pride is all that remains. Phoenix drives engaging in 3, 2, 1. The countdown from the engineering deck was met with tense silence on the bridge of the Harbinger. Admiral Vex sat rigid in her command chair as the new engines powered up, their distinctive hum reverberating through the hall. All systems nominal, reported Chief Engineer Lafren, genuine surprise in her voice. Phoenix shielding holding. Quantum processors online and protected. A cheer erupted across the bridge. After 2 months of humiliating technological regression, the crew was eager for this victory. Vex allowed herself a small smile but raised a hand for quiet. Let's not celebrate prematurely. Tactical status of the fleet. Lieutenant Azeri checked her now functioning console. All 5 vessels report successful Phoenix activation, Admiral. We're back in business. Good. Set course for the boundary marker the Luminoth established. Standard formation. Captain Meridian leaned closer to her chair. We're really doing this. Challenging them directly. Our orders are to establish that human expansion will continue unimpeded, Vex replied, keeping her voice neutral. Director Orbital was explicit. And if the Luminoth were telling the truth about the dimensional disturbances? Vex's eyes remained fixed on the view screen. Then we'll find out soon enough. The retrofitted fleet accelerated to FTL speeds, the familiar star-streaking effect of hyperspace enveloping them. The journey to the boundary would take only 14 hours with the Phoenix drives, a vindication of humanity's refusal to accept technological regression. In a ready room, Vex reviewed Dr. Krell's latest findings. The xenobiologist had been studying the mathematical models the Luminoth had shown them, working to translate alien concepts into human understanding. This can't be right, she muttered, studying a particular simulation. The door chimed. Enter. Dr. Krell stepped inside, looking haggard. You've seen it then. These readings suggest the Phoenix drives are creating disturbances 10 times more powerful than our original Nova fission technology, Vex said. If the Luminoth were correct, it's worse than that, Krell interrupted, placing a data tablet before her. I've been monitoring background radiation levels since we activated the drives. There's a new pattern emerging, a signal of some kind. He tapped the screen, bringing up a waveform that pulsed with an unsettling rhythm. It's not coming from any identifiable source. It's as if space itself is resonating. Vex studied the pattern, a chill running down her spine. Is it a response to our drives? I believe so, and it's growing stronger. Before she could respond, the ship lurched violently, throwing them both against the wall. The red alert klaxon began wailing. Admiral to the bridge. Meridian's voice came through the comm system. They rushed back to find chaos. The view screen showed the fleet had dropped out of hyperspace unexpectedly. Around them, space itself seemed to shimmer with an oily iridescence. Report, Vex demanded. Unknown spatial anomaly, Azeri replied, frantically working her station. It pulled us out of hyperspace. The Phoenix drives are still operational, but navigation can't plot a course through, whatever this is. The shimmer outside was spreading, forming patterns that hurt the eyes to follow. The nearest ship in their formation, the UES Dauntless, was enveloped in the effect. The Dauntless is reporting instrument failures, communications announced. Their admiral, they're saying the crew is experiencing hallucinations. Krell moved to the science station, pushing aside the regular officer. It's happening, he whispered. The barriers are thinning. On the view screen, the Dauntless suddenly went dark, that erupted in a series of explosions along its hull. Light signs? Vex demanded. Azeri shook her head. None detected. But there's something else registering on the Dauntless now. Not human. As they watched in horror, the shimmering effect seemed to concentrate around the dying ship, flowing into the breaches in its hull like water seeking the lowest point. Cut Phoenix drive power by 80%, Vex ordered. Now. But Admiral, the shielding, do it. As the drives powered down, the shimmering effect began to stabilize, no longer spreading but still surrounding the Dauntless. What are we seeing, Doctor? Vex asked quietly. Krell's augmented eyes were wide. The beginning. The entities the Luminoth warned us about. They're feeding on the dimensional tier our drives created, and they've found the Dauntless to be an excellent first meal. On the screen, the once proud warship began to distort, its hull bending in ways that should have been structurally impossible. It was being pulled, not apart, but elsewhere. Get us out of here, Vex ordered, minimal power, just enough to reach safe distance. As the remaining ships retreated, the Dauntless seemed to fold in on itself, compressing into an impossibly small point before vanishing entirely, leaving behind nothing but empty space and silent horror. They were right, Admiral Vex said, her voice barely above a whisper. The Emergency Council meeting had been ongoing for 3 hours. Representatives from all 12 human colony worlds were connected via secure quantum channels, channels that functioned solely because the Phoenix drives had been completely shut down. Director Orbital's hologram paced anxiously. We lost the Dauntless and all hands, 472 personnel, and we still don't understand what we witnessed. I believe we do, Dr. Krell countered, standing to address the council. The Luminoth warning was precise. Our Nova fission technology creates tiers in dimensional barriers. The Phoenix drives amplified this effect exponentially. What we encountered was exactly what they predicted, entities awakening from between realities. That's speculation, Orbital argued. Is it? Vex challenged. We all saw the Dauntless. It didn't explode or disintegrate. It was consumed, pulled somewhere else. The representative from Ta Ceti leaned forward. Dr. Krell, can you explain in layman's terms what these entities might be? Krell activated a holographic display. Based on the Luminoth mathematics and our observations, they exist in dimensional spaces adjacent to our own. Think of reality as a stack of papers. We exist on one sheet. They exist in the spaces between sheets. Our technology is creating holes in our sheet. And now they're crawling through, finished Ambassador Tavik grimly. The question is what we do next, Vex said. We've confirmed the Luminoth weren't bluffing. The Phoenix drives are shut down, but we still have conventional Nova fission reactors powering every colony and most of our infrastructure. The Earth representative, Chancellor Nix, spoke for the first time. Earth Central has reviewed Dr. Krell's findings. While concerning, we cannot simply abandon centuries of technological development based on one incident. The economic impact would be devastating. With respect, Chancellor, Vex replied, the Dauntless vanished with all hands in seconds. If these entities fully awaken, economic concerns will be the least of our problems. What do you suggest then, Admiral? That humanity retreat to pre-spaceflight technology? Before Vex could respond, alarms blared throughout the Harbinger. Lieutenant Azeri rushed into the council chamber. Admiral, we're detecting spatial distortions forming near Proxima Station. The main display switched to show Proxima B's orbital platform. Around it, space rippled with the same disturbing iridescence they had witnessed days earlier. It's happening here now, Krull said, horrified. But how? We shut down the Phoenix drives. The colony's primary power plant, Captain Meridian realized, it's Nova Fission. They watched in stunned silence as the distortion grew, encompassing parts of the station. Where it touched, matter seemed to bend and flow, twisting into impossible configurations. Evacuation status, Vex demanded. Lifeboats launching now, Azeri reported. But the distortion is spreading faster than they can evacuate. On screen, a section of the station began to collapse inward, not from structural failure, but as if being pulled by an invisible force. Through newly formed breaches, they glimpsed something moving, shapes that defied description, flowing like liquid but structured like crystal, simultaneously there and not there. They're coming through, Krull whispered. Chancellor Nix's hologram stood abruptly. I'm ordering immediate shutdown of all Nova Fission technology across human space. Emergency protocols are now in effect. It may be too late, Vex said. Look. The distortion had spread to encompass nearly half the station. But now, something else was happening. The Luminoth vessel, the same one that had disabled their fleet months ago, had appeared near the station, pulsing with brilliant blue light. They're transmitting, communications announced. The shifting geometric form of the Luminoth appeared on screen. You were warned. The veil thins. That which Hunters now feeds. We cannot stop what comes, only contain it. Help us, Vex said simply. We understand now. We'll shut everything down. Too late, the Luminoth replied. The awakening has begun. Prepare your defenses. We will attempt to seal the breach, but what has already crossed must be dealt with. The transmission ended. Outside, the Luminoth vessel began to unfold like before, revealing its true complex form. It positioned itself between the station and the worst of the distortion. Admiral, Meridian said urgently, the Luminoth are going to attempt some kind of containment, but those things, they're already inside the station. There are still 12,000 people aboard. Vex stood, decision made. Prepare boarding parties. Conventional weapons only, no energy weapons that might worsen the tiers. We're going to help evacuate that station. That's suicide, Orbital protested. No, Vex replied. That's humanity. Our pride got us into this mess. Perhaps our courage can help get us out. As the council erupted in arguments, Vex turned to Krull. Doctor, you said these entities feed on the energy from the tiers. Yes, the dimensional energy sustains them. And if that energy were suddenly redirected? Krull's augmented eyes widened. You're thinking of overloading the station's reactor, creating a feedback pulse through the tier itself. Would it work? Theoretically. It might push them back and give the Luminoth time to seal the breach. But someone would need to manually reconfigure the reactor. The automation systems won't be functioning in the distortion field. Vex nodded grimly. Then that's our mission. Meridian, Azari, Kadira, Krull, with me. We have a station to save. The shuttle shuddered as it approached Proxima Station. Through the viewport, Admiral Vex could see the structure twisting in ways that violated the laws of physics. Half the station retained its familiar shape. The other half seemed caught in a grotesque transformation, corridors and chambers stretching and contracting like a living organism. Approach vector locked, Lieutenant Azeri reported from the pilot's seat, her voice tight with controlled fear. Docking in 30 seconds. Vex checked her equipment one final time. Conventional ballistic weapons, mechanical tools, and emergency oxygen. Nothing powered by Nova Fission technology. Nothing that might widen the dimensional tiers. Remember, she addressed the team, our primary objective is evacuating survivors to the emergency shuttles. Secondary objective is reaching the reactor core for Dr. Krull's feedback pulse. If this works, Krull added, checking the makeshift device strapped to his back, the pulse should temporarily disrupt the entity's connection to our reality. The Luminoth can then theoretically seal the tier. And if it doesn't work, Captain Meridian asked. Then Proxima b is just the beginning, Vex replied. According to the Luminov, once these entities establish a foothold, they spread exponentially. The shuttle docked with a jarring thud. The airlock cycled, revealing a dimly lit corridor. Emergency lighting flickered, casting long shadows on warped walls. Life signs? Vex asked. Kadera checked her scanner. Scattered throughout the habitation sections, many clustered in emergency shelters, and other readings unidentifiable. Move out, stay together. They advanced cautiously through corridors that grew increasingly distorted. Gravity fluctuated unpredictably, one moment normal, the next sending them floating or crushing them to the floor. The air itself felt thick, resistant, as if they were moving through invisible syrup. Something's wrong with space itself here, Krell observed, studying his instruments. The dimensional constants are in flux. They rounded a corner and froze. A security officer floated in midair, suspended as if in amber. His face was locked in a silent scream, body contorted impossibly. But most disturbing, he was somehow flattened, as if the third dimension had been partially extracted from his form. Is he? Azarid couldn't finish the question. He exists in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, Krell whispered. Part of him is still here. Parts are elsewhere. Meridian pointed down the corridor. Movement. Something flowed along the walls, not crawling or walking, but rippling through the structure itself. It resembled a crystalline liquid that caught light in ways that hurt the eyes. As it moved, reality seemed to bend around it. Don't engage unless necessary, Vex ordered. Find another route to the emergency shelters. They backtracked and found an access tunnel, squeezing through maintenance shafts that grew narrower and wider in unpredictable patterns. Finally, they reached Habitation Section C, where scanner readings had shown the largest cluster of survivors. The blast doors to the emergency shelter were sealed. Vex activated the external comm. This is Admiral Ilara Vex of the UES Harbinger. We're here to evacuate survivors to emergency shuttles. Please open the doors. After a tense moment, the massive doors slid apart. Inside, nearly 300 station personnel and civilians huddled in fear. A station security chief approached them. Admiral, thank the stars, those things, they're everywhere. The north sections are completely gone. Not gone, Krell corrected grimly. Transformed. Pulled partially into another dimensional state. We have shuttles docking at airlocks 12 through 16, Vex explained. We need to move these people immediately. Are there other survivor groups? The security chief nodded. 2 more shelters, about 500 people total. But the paths to them are compromised, Meridian finished. We'll find a way. Kadera, coordinate the evacuation of this crew. Azarid, secure the route to the airlocks. Captain, you go with them, Vex ordered. Dr. Krell and I will proceed to the reactor core. Meridian's face hardened. With respect, Admiral, I can't let you go alone. That's an order, Captain. These people need you more than we do. Before he could protest further, a violent tremor shook the station. The lights flickered, and through the windows they could see the Luminov vessel engaged in what could only be described as battle. Brilliant streams of blue energy pulsing against the encroaching dimensional distortion. They're buying us time, Vex said. Let's not waste it. With a reluctant nod, Meridian began organizing the evacuation. Vex and Krell slipped away, heading deeper into the station, toward its corrupted heart. The reactor section was almost unrecognizable. What had once been an orderly engineering deck was now a nightmarish landscape of twisted metal and pulsing organic-seeming growths. The Nova Fission reactor itself, once a triumph of human engineering, had become the epicenter of the dimensional tier. It glowed with unnatural light, energy streaming from it not in radiation, but in visible tendrils that vanished into points in empty air. Around these points, reality itself seemed to fold inward. The entities are feeding directly from the reactor, Krell observed, setting up his equipment. The tier is fully formed here. Vex stared into the warped space around the reactor. Can you see them? Not directly. They exist primarily in the dimensional spaces adjacent to ours. What we perceive is just the effect they have on our reality. As if responding to his words, something massive shifted beyond the visible tiers, a presence felt rather than seen, vast beyond comprehension. How long will the feedback pulse take? Krell worked feverishly at the makeshift device. 3 minutes to configure. Then the reactor needs to build to critical mass. Another 2 minutes. After that, the pulse should force the dimensional energy back through the tier. And the reactor? Krell paused. We'll go critical. Anyone in this section won't survive the feedback. Vex nodded. Then I'll stay to ensure it happens. You get back to the evacuation point. Admiral, that's an order, Doctor. Humanity got into this mess through pride and arrogance. It's fitting that sacrifice gets us out. As Krell reluctantly finished the configurations, Vex's comm unit crackled. Admiral, came Meridian's voice. First troop evacuated. Moving to the second shelter now. The Luminoth vessel it's incredible. They're somehow pushing back the distortion field. Good. Dr. Krull is heading back to you. The feedback pulse is almost ready. A pause. Admiral, we can send a team to extract you. Negative, Captain. Someone needs to manually modulate the pulse. Tell Earth Central. Tell them to listen next time. Before Meridian could respond, something massive surged through one of the tiers. A crystalline tendril, impossibly large, punched through reality itself and wrapped around the reactor housing. Go! Vex shouted to Krell. Now! As the xenobiologist fled, Vex turned to face what was coming through. More tendrils emerged, followed by something that human vision could barely process, a shifting mass of geometries similar to the Luminoth but perverted wrong. Vex took position at the controls. The entity seemed to sense her presence, turning what might have been attention in her direction. You were warned, it communicated somehow, the words appearing directly in her mind. Your kind always ignores the warnings. Your pride blinds you. Yes, Vex admitted, initiating the reactor overload sequence. Our pride got us here. But it's not all that remains of us. The entity surged forward, tendrils reaching for her. Vex held her ground, hands steady on the controls as the reactor built toward critical mass. We remember your kind, the entity continued. 73 times before. Always the same pattern. Always the same end. Not this time, Vex replied, watching the energy levels climb. This time, we learn. The reactor reached critical mass. Vex locked the feedback pulse into place and closed her eyes. Outside the station, the Luminoth vessel flared with blinding light as the pulse erupted from Proxima Station's core, channeling destructive energy back through the dimensional tier. For a moment, space itself seemed to scream. Then the tier began to close. 1 year later, Captain Thorn Meridian stood on the observation deck of New Proxima Station, watching the swirling clouds of the colony world below. The rebuilt station was different from its predecessor, powered by solar arrays and fusion reactors designed under Luminoth guidance, with not a trace of Nova-Fission technology to be found. Contemplating the view again, Captain, asked a familiar voice. Meridian turned to find Dr. Krull approaching, his augmented eyes now complemented by several new Luminoth-designed implants that allowed him to perceive dimensional variations imperceptible to normal human senses. Just thinking about how much has changed, Meridian replied. 1 year since the Proxima incident and humanity is different. Humbled, Krull agreed. But not broken. Below them, the colony continued to thrive, albeit with significantly altered technology. The Great Transition, as it had come to be known, had been painful. Economic systems collapsed, infrastructure required massive overhauls, and countless conveniences of Nova-Fission technology had been abandoned. But humanity had survived. More than that, they had begun to understand. The Luminoth delegation arrives in an hour, Krull reminded him. The Council is eager to hear their assessment of our progress. Meridian nodded. After the dimensional breach had been sealed, the Luminoth had not withdrawn as expected. Instead, they had established formal diplomatic relations with humanity, offering guidance on developing technologies that wouldn't threaten the dimensional barriers. Do you think they'll approve our application to the Concordance? Meridian asked. Krull made a non-committal gesture. Hard to say. By their standards, we're still very young. But Admiral Vex's sacrifice impressed them. They value wisdom over pride, and learning from mistakes is the essence of wisdom. The mention of Vex brought a somber mood. Her final act, redirecting the dimensional energy and sacrificing herself in the process, had become legendary throughout human space. The Luminoth themselves had honored her, describing her choice as the first truly enlightened human decision. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. One of the station's communication officers approached. Captain, Director Orbital requests your presence in the council chamber. The Luminoth vessel has arrived early. So like them, Krull muttered with something approaching affection. Time is quite fluid to their perception. They made their way through the station's curves and angles, the new architecture itself influenced by Luminoth concepts of spatial harmony, designed to minimize dimensional stress points. Groups of scientists and engineers worked alongside a few Luminoth advisors, their shifting geometric forms now a familiar sight on human installations. The council chamber doors slid open to reveal Director Orbital, now considerably humbled from his previous imperious demeanor, speaking with Chancellor Nix and Ambassador Tavik. On the central platform, a Luminoth representative was already present, its form more elaborate than most they had encountered. "Ah, Captain Meridian, Dr. Krell," Orbital greeted them. "Allow me to introduce Elder Voidheart of the Luminoth Concordance Oversight Council." The Luminoth's form shifted in what they had come to recognize as a greeting gesture. The vessel once called Meridian, the researcher called Krell. "Your patterns are known to us. You were present when the breach occurred," Winterkind first learned. "We were," Meridian acknowledged, "and we continue to learn." Indeed. The Luminoth's voice resonated not just in their ears, but somehow directly in their minds. "Your species adapts with remarkable speed. In merely one orbital cycle, you have replaced 70% of your dimensional stressing technologies. Most species require 5 cycles, minimum." Chancellor Nix stepped forward. "We are committed to the transition, Elder Voidheart. Earth itself will be completely free of nova fission within another year." "Commendable, but not why we have come early." The Luminoth's form expanded slightly. "We have detected residual dimensional thinning in Sector 47 Alpha, near your former fleet engagement site. Something remains." Krell's augmented eyes widened. "The Dauntless, but it was completely consumed." "Not completely," the Luminoth corrected. "When entities feed, they sometimes leave echoes. Fragments caught between dimensions. We have detected human consciousness patterns persisting in the breach remnants." A stunned silence fell over the council chamber. "Are you saying Meridian finally managed that the crew of the Dauntless is still alive? Trapped between dimensions? Alive is not the word we would use. But existing, yes, and potentially retrievable, with proper understanding of dimensional mechanics." Director Orbital looked pale. "You're talking about a rescue mission, too, wherever they are?" "A retrieval," the Luminoth clarified. "And not wherever. The spaces between. It would require a vessel capable of dimensional transition. We have such technology. What we lack is the human consciousness pattern recognition necessary to locate your specific individuals among the dimensional noise." Krell immediately understood. "You need human volunteers. People who would recognize the thought patterns of the Dauntless crew." "Correct. A joint mission. The first of its kind between our species." Ambassador Tavik looked concerned. "The risks would be extraordinary." Indeed, the Luminoth agreed. Dimensional transition is not without hazard. But consider this. Your Admiral Vex sacrificed herself to close one breach. Would you not risk opening a controlled passage to recover those lost because of human pride? Meridian stepped forward without hesitation. "I knew many of the Dauntless crew personally. I volunteer." Krell moved to his side. "As do I. My dimensional perception implants may prove useful." Chancellor Nix looked between them and the Luminoth Elder. Is this what humanity joining the Concordance looks like? Joint missions? Shared risks?" "It is the beginning," the Luminoth confirmed. "All spacefaring species must eventually confront the multiverse's true nature. How they respond determines their place within it. Will humanity retreat from the cosmos in fear, or advance with newfound wisdom?" "We advance," Meridian said firmly. "But not from pride this time, from responsibility." The Luminoth's form shifted in what might have been approval. "Then preparations will begin immediately. The dimensional vessel Iridescent Thought will arrive within 2 of your days." As the meeting concluded and the humans began discussing logistics, Meridian pulled Krell aside. "Do you think we'll find them, after all this time in whatever lies between dimensions?" Krell's expression was solemn. "I don't know. But consider this, a year ago, we didn't know other dimensions existed, let alone entities that live between them. Now we're preparing to travel there ourselves." "That's not an answer, Doctor." "No, it's something better." Krell's augmented eyes gleamed. "It's a beginning." 2 days later, they stood in the docking bay as the Luminoth vessel arrived. Unlike the utilitarian designs of human ships, the Iridescent Thought resembled an impossibly complex geometric sculpture, its surfaces shifting and flowing as if alive. It didn't so much dock with the station as phase partially into alignment with it. A team of 12 humans had been selected, scientists, engineers, and those who had known the Dauntless crew personally. As they prepared to board, Director Orbital addressed them. "1 year ago, humanity's pride led us to ignore warnings we should have heeded. That pride cost us dearly." His voice grew solemn. But from that tragedy came understanding. Today we embark not from pride, but from duty, to those we lost and to what we might become. Meridian adjusted the new dimensional perception device Krell had helped design, a modified version of the doctor's implants that would allow all team members to perceive the spaces between realities. "Ready?" he asked Krell. The xenobiologist nodded. "For a rescue mission to another dimension with alien allies we were fighting a year ago, absolutely." As they boarded the Luminoth vessel, Meridian caught a final glimpse of Proxima b through the station viewport, a blue-green jewel against the red dwarf star. Humanity's first true colony world, now a symbol of their new beginning. The Luminoth Elder Voidheart awaited them in what could loosely be called the vessel's command center, a chamber where dimensions seemed to fold into themselves, creating a space larger inside than should have been possible. "The transition will be disorienting," the Luminoth warned. "Your perception frameworks are not evolved for multidimensional awareness." "We're ready," Meridian assured them, though his voice betrayed a hint of apprehension. "Then we begin." The chamber illuminated with cascading patterns of light as the ship's systems engaged. Through his perception device, Meridian watched in awe as reality itself seemed to thin around them, not tearing as the Nova fission had done, but gently parting like a curtain. "Remember," Krell said to the team, "we're looking for human consciousness patterns, thoughts, memories, emotions, anything that feels familiar." The Luminoth vessel phased fully between dimensions, and suddenly they were elsewhere. Not in normal space, but not entirely removed from it either. Through the ship's viewing portals, they could see both stars and something else. Patterns and structures that human vision couldn't fully process, stretching in directions that shouldn't exist. And moving through this impossible space were the entities, vast and ancient, feeding on the dimensional energies, their crystalline forms shifting between states of matter that defied categorization. "They do not perceive us," Elder Voidheart explained. "Our vessel exists in harmonic resonance with the dimensional boundaries. We are between perceptions." As they ventured deeper into this realm, Meridian felt a strange sensation, not quite sound, not quite touch, brushing against his consciousness. Using the perception device as trained, he focused on it. "I'm detecting something," he announced. "It feels human. Fragmented, but definitely human." Other team members soon reported similar sensations. The Luminoth vessel adjusted course, moving toward a cluster of what appeared to be crystalline fragments suspended in the nothing space. "The echoes of your vessel Dauntless," the Elder explained. "When consumed, it was not destroyed but disassembled. Its component parts, both physical and conscious, were separated across dimensional boundaries." As they drew closer, the sensations grew stronger. Through the perception devices, they could now discern distinct thought patterns, fear, confusion, but also resilience. The crew of the Dauntless, or what remained of them, still existed in some form. "How do we retrieve them?" Krell asked. "We cannot recover their physical forms," the Luminoth admitted. "Those have been absorbed by the entities, but consciousness patterns can be extracted and preserved. With time, new physical vessels might be constructed." Meridian stared at the drifting fragments of awareness. "You're talking about downloading their consciousness, giving them artificial bodies. Is this not preferable to leaving them fractured between dimensions?" the Elder asked. "The choice, however, must be theirs." Using technology beyond human understanding, the Luminoth established a communication link with the fragmented consciousness patterns. Messages filtered through, distorted but recognizable. "How long? Still here. Can't feel my body. Help us." Tears formed in Meridian's eyes as he recognized voices of friends and colleagues thought lost forever. He stepped forward. "This is Captain Thorne Meridian of New Proxima Station. We've come to bring you home, if you want to come. It won't be the same. Your bodies are gone, but your minds yourselves, those can be preserved." A moment of silence followed. Then a stronger signal emerged, the distinctive thought pattern of Captain Lyra Vega of the Dauntless. "Meridian, is it really you? We'd been everywhere and nowhere. Time doesn't work here. How long?" "1 year," he replied. "We've learned so much, Lyra. The Luminoth, the aliens who warned us, they're helping us now. They can save your consciousness, give you new bodies eventually. Not human bodies. No, but still bodies, still life." Another pause, then, "Better than this half-existence. Do it. Save who you can." The retrieval process took hours, the Luminoth technology carefully extracting and preserving each distinct consciousness pattern they could isolate. In the end, they recovered 312 of the Dauntless's 472 crew members. The rest had been too thoroughly fragmented or absorbed. As the iridescent thought prepared to transition back to normal space, Elder Voidheart approached Meridian and Krell. "Your kind has surprised us," the Luminoth admitted. "Most species, when confronted with their mistakes, either retreat entirely or double their efforts in defiance. You have done neither." "We're learning balance," Meridian replied, "between pride and humility, between expansion and restraint." A promising sign, the Elder's form shifted in what they now recognized as the Luminoth equivalent of a nod. "The Concordance Council will receive our recommendation. Humanity's application will be approved." As the ship transitioned back to normal space, New Proxima Station coming into view, Krell turned to Meridian. "What happens now?" 312 consciousnesses waiting for bodies that don't exist yet. Meridian watched as the first data modules containing the rescued crew were carefully transferred to the station. "We adapt. We learn. We grow." He smiled slightly. "Isn't that what humans do best?" Back on the station, Director Orbital and Chancellor Nix waited as Meridian and Krell disembarked, carrying the first consciousness modules. "Successful?" Orbital asked. "Beyond our hopes," Meridian confirmed, "and the Luminoth will support our concordance application." Nix nodded solemnly. "Admiral Vex would be proud, not of our pride, but of what came after." As scientists carefully secured the rescued consciousness patterns, preparing them for their new existence, Meridian gazed out at the stars. Somewhere out there, countless other species were making the same choices humanity had faced, between pride and wisdom, between expansion at any cost and sustainable growth. Some would ignore the warnings, as humanity once had. Others would learn, as humanity now did. And the universe, in all its dimensions, would continue.